Good day, everyone. So I'll discuss to you the other theories of international trade. So sisimulan na po natin ulit from the first slide, no, para lang mas malinaw po sa inyo and ma-recall nyo yung mga nauna nating napag-usapan. Okay, so for its contents, we'll talk about the introduction of the other theories of international trade, the specific factor model, the standard model of trade, and the Leontief paradox. So for the introduction, China's ascent in global trade is marked by its emergence as the largest trading partner for 128 countries by 2018, surpassing the United States, and this shifts signals in US dominance and highlights China's growing economic influence worldwide. So, um, to sum up this slide, it explains how China became a powerful country in global trade. And according to reports, China has become the largest trading partner for many countries in the world. And also, it means many countries buy products from China or sell products to China. Also, even during economic problems and political conflicts, China continued to export a lot of goods, which allowed it to maintain a large trade surplus. And again, when we say trade surplus, it means a country export more products than it imports. Ano po? Kagaya nga po nung na-mention natin before, ang example natin sa mga tinetrade natin na products from China ay yung mga smartphones, yung mga electronics, no? Mga clothing. Kasi they can produce products cheaply and in large quantities. And here, it talks about the how India depends on Chinese imports, no? Even though the two countries have political tensions, India still imports many products from China. One example mentioned is the pharmaceuticals ingredients. Kasi many medicines produced in India actually use ingredients imported from China. Kaya kahit meron silang political tensions, may trade pa rin sa kanila. Kasi doon nagmumula yung kanyang mga ingredients. At dahil mas nag-i-import si India kay China, si India ay nakaka-experience ng trade deficit with China. And si China naman, since lamang siya sa pag-export, nakaka-experience siya ng trade surplus. Po. And that's all for the introduction. Now we'll proceed to the specific factor model. So we will talk about the real income and its role in market demand. Again, when we say real income, it refers to income adjusted for inflation. This means it shows the actual purchasing power of people. No? Kung naaalala nyo po na mention natin yung about sa neto, no, yung net of pay, yung actual na kinikita ng isang individual. Ayun po yung real income. Sa ngayon, sa nangyayari sa ating country, ang real income ng mga taong nag-increase ang sweldo ay hindi naman totally nag-i-increase, kung hindi nag-decrease pa. Kasi mas mataas yung pag-i-increase ng price sa paligid than the actual salary increase. Ano po? And then, aside from real income, na-mention rin natin si national income. Ano po? So, si national income, it refers to the total earnings of a country from economic activities in 1 year. So, ano po ang kinabibilangan ng national income? It includes income received by different economic resources such as wages, no, yung mga payment to workers, ay yung mga tinatawag po natin na salaries, interest, so yung mga payment to lenders, yung mga rent from land, from their property, and also the rent, and then the profit. Next, we have here gross national income. So it measures the total income earned by a country's resident both inside and outside the country. So meaning it includes income earned within the country, income earned by citizens working abroad, and income from foreign investments. Ano po? And then we have here the key elements of the specific factor model. So, na-mention natin ulit itong si Ricardian model na dinevelop ni David Ricardo. And it's historical evolution. So, mame-mention natin si Ronald Jones and Samuelson. So, they are the economists who studied how resources affect production in different sectors. And we have here uh, production functions. Okay. So here in factors of production, these are resources used to produce goods and services. And we have the common factors, yung land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Ano po? And it is about the focus, no? Tinutukoy nito kung aling country or ano yung abundance ng isang country. Kung alin yung meron silang comparative advantage. And dito lang sa production functions, ni-represent yung kanilang mathematical equation. May different representation. So, sabi po ni Samuelson at ni Jones, to produce food, you need T plus L. Ang ibig sabihin ni T, land, L ay labor. Kasi hindi naman ibig sabihin na may land ka, makakaproduce ka na agad ng prutas. Kailangan mo ng labor na gagawa doon, na magtatanim at mag-harvest. As well as sa manufactured products, na ang symbol niya ay Y, ang kailangan mo daw ay capital and labor to produce manufactured products. Okay? And then we have here the resource specialization. So ano po ulit? Ang meron kay resource specialization. In this framework, land is specific to agriculture, capital to manufacturing, and labor, however, remains a versatile input across both sectors, dependent on resource availability and wages. So dito po, napag-usapan natin noon, yung bakit flexible ang labor at hindi flexible si land at ang capital. 'Di ba? Kasi si land at capital, hindi siya flexible dahil hindi mo naman siya switch or hindi naman siya magta-transform from agriculture to manufacturing company. Unlike kay labor na halimbawa from halimbawa farmer to factory worker, no? Kaya siya tinawag na versatile. Okay? And then we have here again the law of diminishing marginal returns. Ano pag sinabi nating law of diminishing? Kung naaalala niyo po, ito yung parang samang bilang lang. Ano? So, naging example natin before yung about sa cook. Halimbawa, meron kang isang coffee shop or may isa kang kitchen, meron kang dalawang cook originally. They can work efficiently naman. Okay naman sila mag-produce ng output. And then, sa kagustuhan mo na mag-add ng inputs, nag-add ka ng another cook. Halimbawa, yung from dalawang cook, nag-hire ka pa ng 8 pa. Tapos yung design naman ng kitchen mo, same pa rin. Ayun pa rin ang bilang ng equipments, hindi ka pa rin nagdadagdag ng gasol. As is pa rin siyang ganun. So, ang nangyayari dito, you are adding more inputs, nagkakaroon man ng additional sa outputs, pero napakaliit lang ng increase. Ano po? So, ito po yung meron kay law of diminishing marginal returns. Next, we have here labor allocation and its implications. So we have labor mobility between sectors, influence output and wage distributions, allocation determines comparative advantage and production efficiency, and shifts in labor affect income distribution among specific and mobile factors. So it states that the total labor supply in a country must be divided among different industries. Ano? So, as mentioned, for the economy as a whole, the total labor employed in producing manufactured good and producing food must equal the total labor supply. So, hindi ibig sabihin na maraming laborers ay ayun rin yung count ng actual laborers nila. For example, sa mas malinaw na paraan, sa isang country na marami siyang farmland, mayaman sa agriculture. So ano ang kailangan nila doon? Mga farmers. Ayun yung mga laborers na kailangan nila. Samantalang sa other country, ang kailangan nila, like Japan, ay marami silang capital. So, factory workers ang kailangan naman nila. Ano po? And then, dito tayo actually talagang mag-start dapat dun sa naiwan natin sa previous topic natin. Ano po? So, we'll proceed sa the standard model of trade. So, we have here a global demand curve. But before we proceed, here's a standard model of trade. It explains how countries trade based on global demand and supply. Okay, kung naaalala nyo pa po ang topic nyo nung high school, nung junior high, yung mga pagtaas ng presyo, pagbaba ng demand, pagtaas ng supply, pagbaba ng presyo, no? Ngayon, napapanahan po itong global demand curve dahil sa nangyayari sa ating economy. Ano? So here, sa ating standard model of trade, it combines ideas from several trade theories including yung Ricardian model, Heckscher all-in model, and the specific factor model. And bakit ba nila pinag-uusapan itong different models of trade? Ano? Kaya nila yun pinag-uusapan to help the economists to understand how prices and trade volumes are determined internationally. Okay? So, bakit kaya yun mahalaga? Si Standard Model of Trade. Kasi, na-identify na doon or mas na madali nilang ma-analyze yung international trade flows, yung mga policy, at saka yung mga trade agreements. Ano, kasi kapag naiintindihan nila ang nangyayari sa iba't ibang bansa, pwede nilang mapababa ang value ng trading. Ano, halimbawa, pag nag-export sila, pwede nang mas cheap yun, no? Mas mapa-increase natin yung mga export natin sa tulong ng pag-aaral ng mga economists sa standard model of trade. Okay? So now, proceed tayo dito sa global demand curve. So the global demand curve shows how much goods people around the world want to buy at different prices. Ano? So, kasama na rin dito ang consumer behavior. Ano? And ano po ang meron kay global demand curve? It includes spending by personal consumption or expenditure. O ito yung mga kung paano gumagastos ang bawat household. Okay? Gross private domestic investment. Ito yung mga kung gaano nag-i-invest ang businesses. Okay, the gross government spending and the net exports. Ano, like for example, sa isang smartphone, pag pinababa nila ang presyo ng isang cellphone, ang tendency noon, mas maraming tao na ang magkakaroon ng cellphone. Bakit? Kasi meron na silang capacity to buy. May purchasing power na sila kasi nagbaba ang presyo. So ngayon, ma-identify nila ano kaya ang magiging behavior ng demand curve. Ano po? So we have here components of global demand. So, na-mention naman natin kanina, itong about sa different components. So, ngayon proceed tayo dito sa behavior of global demand curve. So, meron kasi itong figure doon sa ating file, pero when we visualize it, we have rightward shift. It occurs when factors such as increased consumer wealth, reduced interest rates, or favorable government policies boost spending. So, nangyayari ito when demand increases. Ano yung mga reasons bakit bakit nag-i-increase ang demand? Nandyan yung tumataas yung income, bumababa yung mga interest rates, and about the government stimulus. And when we say leftward shift, it happens during economic downturns, high interest rates, or declining consumer confidence. So, this happens when demand decreases naman. Ano po yung mga reasons bakit po nag-decrease ang demand? Maybe because of economic recession, yun, as mentioned, meron ng high interest and mababa na yung purchasing power ng mga customer. Okay? Next po, we have here the global supply curve. So the global supply curve represents the relationship between price levels and the quantity of goods and services that producers are willing to supply. It is determined by a nation's production capabilities and economic efficiency. So, as mentioned, this is the relationship between price and the quantity of goods producers are willing to supply. So, here sa global supply curve, if the price decreases, the producer supplies fewer goods. Kasi, mamahalin siya eh. Ibig sabihin, pag mamahalin, kakaunti rin yung demand. So, kapag kakaunti ang demand, mababa rin ang supply. Diba? And production capability depends on several factors like labor, capital, technology, and natural resources. And we have here key determinants of supply, the production capabilities, the price levels, and the non-price factors. Like for example, sa mga oil companies, if the price of oil increases, oil producing countries will increase in oil production to earn more profit. Ngayon, kapag bumaba ang supply ng oil, tataas naman ang presyo nito. So doon naaapektuhan ang global supply curve. And kagaya lamang ng global demand curve, meron tayong upward slope and shifts. Ito yung about sa kanilang behavior. So, upward slope, it reflects the principle that producers supply more at higher prices, and it shifts caused by changes in production cost, innovations, or resource constraints. Next, we have here the market equilibrium. When we say market equilibrium, it occurs when the demand is equal to supply. Alam niyo yung letter X, yung kapag nag-meet sila sa gitna, yung tuldok sa gitna, meaning sa gitnang yon doon meet yung tamang bilang ng demand at tamang bilang ng supply. Halimbawa, sa isang laptop, ang demand ng laptop ay 100. Then ang sinupply na laptop ay 100 din. And kapag ganun ang nangyari, the market is in equilibrium. Okay? And then we have the characteristics of equilibrium. So equilibrium price, the price at which demand equals to supply. equilibrium quantity, the quantity exchanged in the market at the equilibrium price, and dynamic nature. Real-world markets often deviate from equilibrium due to external shocks such as policy changes, technological disruptions, or global crisis. And we have here relationship between global demand and prices. So it explains how changes in demand affects prices. Ano? Sa madaling salita, kapag ang demand ay nag-increase, more goods are produced. Ano? Parang yung sa sari-sari store. Kapag mas marami kang supply sa sari-sari store, mas maraming laman yung sari-sari store mo, mas maraming bumibili sa'yo. Kasi marami silang pamimilian. Ano? And also, kapag rin nag-increase na ang demand, yung competition sa market nag-i-increase na rin. Ano po? And prices may stabilize or decrease. Kasi nga, naglalaban na sila dito ng demand. And when the demand decreases, no, prices rise as producers reduce output. So when demand decreases, production decreases, supply becomes limited, and prices may increase. Ano? And also uh it shows the elasticity of demand. Sinabi nating elasticity, it measures how sensitive demands is to changes in prices, income levels, or other factors. Like for example, meron tayong high elasticity and low elasticity. When we say high elasticity, small price changes result in significant changes in demand. And low elasticity, demand remains relatively stable despite price fluctuations. Medyo nakakalito ito kung hindi natin agad naintindihan, no? Para mas madali niyong matandaan, isipin niyo class na ang high elasticity ay OA, ang low elasticity nonchalant. Okay? Paano po nangyaring OA ang high elasticity? Best example kasi dito, yung mga luxury products. Okay? Halimbawa, yung mga iPhone. Ang iPhone po ay merong high elasticity kasi the more na nagtaas ang presyo ng iPhone, may tendency na ang tao ay tumigil na sa pagbili ng iPhone. Kasi masyadong mahal eh. Meaning, yung demand noon ay OA. Kasi nung nagtaas ang presyo, nag-react ang mga tao. May mga hindi na bumili, merong bumili pa rin, pero nalalamangan na maraming hindi bumibili. Okay? Malala yung reaction. Samantalang sa low elasticity, since hindi naman ito luxury products, kasi ang nabibilang sa low elasticity ay yung mga basic goods like rice, mga pagkain, ano po. So sa pagkain, kagaya ng bigas, magtaas man ang presyo ng bigas, nonchalant lang ang reaksyon ng mga tao. Bakit? Kasi kailangan rin nila ng bigas eh. Nagigets po. So, ayun ang difference ni high elasticity and ni low elasticity. Ano? Tipong parang sa kape at asukal, lagi silang magkasama. May low elasticity pag tumaas kasi ang presyo ng asukal o ng kape, hindi masyadong nag-iiba ang demand ng kanyang kapartner eh. Ano po? Unlike high elasticity na puro luxury products. And then we have here production possibility frontier or the PPF. So it shows the maximum amount of two goods in a country can produce with its resources. Like, for example, class, yung about sa comparative advantage, if a country can produce either 100 tons of rice or 50 cars, so if it produce more rice, it must produce fewer cars. No, parang comparative advantage. Kung saan ka mas magaling, edi doon ka mag-focus. So, ayun po si ah, production possibility frontier. Pinapakita nito yung trade-off between producing different products. Okay? And then we have here about sa value of output, representation lang din yan ng mathematical equation. We have here terms of trade or the TOT. So, terms of trade measures the value of a country's exports compared to its imports. So, meron na naman tayong calculation dyan that TOT is equal to export prices divided by import prices. So, meaning if export prices increase, the country's terms of trade improve. Like halimbawa, ang isang country nag-exports ng electronics tapos nag-import siya ng oil. Pag nagtaas ang presyo ng electronics, magbe-benefit tayo. Kahit tayo ay nag-i-import, pero ang tumaas sa presyo ay yung ating ina-export, magbe-benefit pa rin tayo kasi mas malaki pa rin ang benta natin. Okay po? And then, we have here, yun, sa key implications, yun about lang sa benefits na na-mention natin kanina. Like, kagaya nito, if a country exports machinery and imports food, an improvement in TOT means the price of machinery rises faster than the price of food, and increasing country A's trade revenue. And then we have here application of the standard model of trade. So, for trade policy analysis, governments use the model to evaluate the impact of tariffs, quotas, and subsidies. While for welfare impacts, economists study whether trade improves a country's economic well-being. And for production optimization, countries specialize in goods where they have a comparative advantage. And for net exports, the model helps policymakers respond to economic crisis. Like for example, if a government imposes tariffs on imported cars, kapag nag-import sila doon, nag-impose sila ng tariff sa mga imported cars, ang tendency ay magmamahal ang presyo ng imported cars. So, ang result noon, yung mga consumers natin, yung mga residente natin dito sa ating bansa, ang bibili na lang kotse ay yung mga domestic cars. At kapag binili nila ang mga domestic cars, mag-grow ang mga nasa domestic industries. Kasi ang goal dito nila ay to help the local products to improve. And to gain more profit. Okay? And lastly, the Leontief paradox. So, here, sa Leontief paradox, we have the Heckscher-Ohlin theory. So, naaalala pa ba si Heckscher-Ohlin theory? So, this theory says countries export goods that use their abundant resources. Like halimbawa, sa Philippines, labor-intensive tayo. So, tayo ay nag-export ng mga workers. Ano pa? Halimbawa, yung Bangladesh. Labor-intensive rin sila, kaya ang ina-export nila ay mga clothing. Kaya maraming mga clothing na from Bangladesh eh. And sa mga capital-rich countries naman, like Japan or Germany, meron silang capital-intensive goods, kaya machinery yung kanilang ine-export. Kung saan sila abundant. And then we have here testing the Heckscher-Ohlin theory or ito yung Leontief paradox. So initially, the Heckscher-Ohlin theory was accepted because it seemed to match the real trade patterns. However, economists wanted to test the theory scientifically. They used the technique called input-output analysis, which studies how industries depend on each other. This method helps economists measure how much labor and capital are used in producing goods. Like, for example, economists may analyze how much labor, machines, and materials are needed to produce a car. So, dito po, sa pagtetest nila sa Heckscher-Ohlin theory, ginamitan nila ng input, process, output. Tinest nila kung gaano ba talaga or alin ba talaga ang meron silang abundant factor para makapag-produce ng kotse. Abundant ba sila sa laborers, sa machineries, or sa kanilang mga materials? Ano? So, ganun nila tinest. And then, here, in understanding the paradox, over the years, economists have used various theories and data to better understand and address the Leontief paradox. Kasi class, when we say paradox, it is a statement that appears contradictory or illogical at first but may actually hold true upon closer examination. So ito yung opposite ng bawat theory, itong paradox. Okay? So the Leontief paradox, for example, challenged the Heckscher-Ohlin theory by showing that the US, des the US, despite being capital rich, exported more labor-intensive goods than expected. Ano? So sila ay capital rich country. So marami silang mga machineries, pero ang kanilang mas na-i-export ay highly skilled workers. Meaning, nagko-contradict yun sa Heckscher-Ohlin theory kung saan totoong abundant ang Amerika. No? Ulitin natin. Ang Amerika ay capital intensive. So kapag capital intensive, ang naipoproduce niya, machineries. Pero dahil sa pag-aaral, dahil sa Leontief paradox, napatunayan na ang Amerika, kahit capital intensive, ang naipoproduce naman niya ay highly skilled workers. Meaning, labor intensive yon. Kaya nag-contradict siya sa unang theory. Okay? So, sa Leontief paradox, napaka-surprising po ng mga result. Contradict po sa unang theory. Okay? So, for the Leontief's works and paradox, so Wassily Leontief received the Nobel Prize in Economics in 1973 for developing input-output analysis. So this method studies how different industries in an economy interact with each other. So his work influenced several famous economists such as Paul Samuelson, Robert Solow, and Vernon Smith. So sila rin ay nanalo ng Nobel Prizes. And then we have here revisions of Leontief paradox. So ito yung mga nanalo rin sa Nobel Prize. And then we have here Japan Japan's trade pattern. So economists studied Japan's trade patterns and found results similar to the Leontief paradox. So kagaya rin nung sa Amerika, nag-contradict din sa actual na theory nila na nakaka-produce pala rin ang Japan na kabaligtaran dun sa na-discover nilang totoong abundant factor nila. Ano? Kasi si Japan, it had a large labor force. So according to HO theory, it should export labor-intensive goods. However, Japan exported capital-intensive goods such as machinery and electronics. Ano? So, nag-contradict siya sa theory. Kahit ngayon di ba? Mas alam natin na ang Japan ay capital-intensive goods. Pero before, sabi nila, ang Japan ay large labor force. So, nagwo-work na pala itong si Leontief paradox. And then we have here other studies, no, yung mga other researches tested the HO theory in different countries, and some results supported the theory while the others showed paradox results. And that's all for our chapter 4. So, lagi nyo lang tatandaan na yung trade ay nakaka-impluwensya or nai-impluwensyahan ng different factors such as ng technology, labor skills, ano po, ng mga government policies, natural resources, and economic development. At dahil dito, sa ganitong pag-aaral, yung economist natin ay nagko-continue pa rin sa pag-develop ng mga bagong trade theories to better understand the global trade. Okay? So that's all for today. Thank you so much everyone for joining and keep safe.